as I said, this is your second video for the week. It's a bit of a present before cracking the 1 million views. So what I've got is an apple pie. So I'm going to show you how to make the pastry, homemade pastry, the filling, and obviously how to construct your pie and cook it. And the eating bit's up to you. So it tastes fantastic, I'm sure. And I do hope you enjoy it. So if you've got any other comments or want to ask a few questions, just do it down below and I'll get back to you. But other than that, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week.
And the first thing we need to do is the actual pie crust. It's really simple pie crust. It can be used for any other sort of pies, like a meat pie or a chicken and leek pie, but tonight it's an apple pie. So first things first, we want to cut up 225 grams of butter into 1 centimeter cubes and stick it in the freezer. So we want it as cold as possible when we stick it into our flour. Along with 1 cup of water, we're going to stick this into the fridge or the freezer. It needs to be ice cold for a nice flaky pastry. So anyway, getting back to the actual flour, so we're going to stick in 2.5 cups of flour into a large bowl, followed by a teaspoon of salt. Now once our butter has been in the freezer for around 10-15 minutes, it's gone nice, hard and cold, we're going to stick this into our flour mixture. If you've got a food processor, it's going to be really handy. You can put it all here, whiz it around, and it does exactly, puts it into the breadcrumb size that we're after. But if you don't, use your fingers and just smooth out the butter between your fingers into a nice sort of coarse breadcrumb mixture. Now once we've got this breadcrumb mixture like we've got here, we're going to add in the water. Now it's incredibly crucial that you don't add too much water, otherwise it becomes a nice, a dense pastry. It's not going to be very nice and flaky. So add around 6 tablespoons of this ice cold water and see what your mixture does. If you need to, add a tablespoon at a time, a little bit more, just until everything pulls together. You don't want to oversaturate your dough. So once you think that it's just pulling together nicely, we're going to put it out onto a nice bench, and we're just going to bring everything together and just put it into a nice dough ball like we've got here. It might seem that it's a little bit too dry, but trust me, you don't want to add too much water. I keep stressing this. Once we've got our nice ball, we can wrap this up and chuck it back into the fridge. Everything needs to be as cold as possible for these pie crusts. Now we need to focus on the actual filling of our pie. This is another crucial part. So we're going to stick in around 8 apples, 8 large cooking apples. These can be sort of braeburn or Granny Smiths work really well. So we just peel these apples, cord them, and just slice them into nice sort of thin slices like we have here. Now put these into a large bowl, and into this bowl we're going to stick in 1/2 cup of white sugar and also 1/2 cup of brown sugar. We're just going to toss the apples through so everything's nice and incorporated, and also stick in, say, a teaspoon of cinnamon. The cinnamon really pairs well with apples. So just toss everything nicely so it makes all the apples are nice, well and coated. And we're just going to just cook these until they go a little bit soft, so we can stick it into our pie. So stick it into a large pan with a teaspoon of water and put it over a medium heat like I have here, and just stir everything around. You'll find that some of the liquid starts cooking out, and once this happens we can stick in a tablespoon of flour. Once again, stir it all around. It should get this nice gooey mixture with the flour, the sugars and the apples, and this is your filling that you want to put into your pie crust. So once you're at this stage, put this aside and we can work on our pie crusts. Roll it out and then put our filling in there and whack into the oven. Rightio, with our pastry fresh from the fridge, where it's nice and cold and hard, we're going to get a knife, cut it in half. 1/2 is going to be the top of our pie crust, and the other half is going to be the bottom of our pie crust. Pretty simple. Lightly flour your work surface, grab a rolling pin, and just roll out your dough until it's around 3 to 4 millimeters thick, and that's your ideal thickness for a pie crust. Make sure that your pie dish, like I've got here, is large enough for the bottom to fit in. So what I normally do is grab the pie dish here and just cut around 1 inch larger than the actual pie crust, so I know it's going to fit in nicely. So once we do that, grab the bottom pastry, firmly put this into our pie dish, crimp the edges around the thing, make sure it's a nice snug fit. So now that we've got our bottom in, we can stick in our filling. So this is all our apples. So we're going to stick it in and do a nice mound in the center. It really looks fantastic once we get our top section on. Now for the top of the pie, this is where you can get a little bit fancy, or you can go with a fully enclosed pie. It's up to you. So what we're going to do is same thing, grab the other half our pastry mixture, roll it out to 3 to 4 millimeters thick, and then we can either go fully enclosed, just drape this across our pie, crimp the edges, stick it in the oven, or we can do nice strips to make it look a little bit cooler. So I'm just going to cut strips with a ruler around 1 inch thick. I've chosen to go a 5x5 pattern, so they look like a 5x5 crosshatch pattern. So what we're going to do is grab our strips, lay them all out one way, make sure to get them as even as possible, our gaps as even as possible, and then for the opposite direction at 90 degrees, we're just going to weave in our pastry pieces like I'm doing here. Repeat them for all your pastry until your pie is covered. And then around the edges, we're just going to crimp our pastry strips onto the bottom of our pie crust. And then to tidy everything up, all we're going to do is roll over these edges like I'm doing here. Right around the pie. If they're not quite sticking, add a little bit of milk between the layers, and you'll find that it'll help things stick a lot easier. So this is what you've got. All we're going to do now is coat the top of our pastry in a little bit of milk. And if you really want, you can grab some caster sugar, sprinkle this over the top, and when it comes out of the oven, you're going to have that nice crystallized sugar coating. You can also put in a little design at the top of your pie if you want, a few leaves. It's endless what you can do. So we're going to stick this into the oven for 180 degrees for around half an hour, 25 minutes. So just start checking at 25 minutes. Keep an eye on it. Once your pastry starts going nice and golden and crisp, that's when you should take it out. So with your pastry nice and golden and flaky, hopefully, whack it out of the oven, turn your oven off, and just let it cool to serve with a little bit of custard if you want, or by itself is absolutely fantastic. Even the next day, it's even better. So here's the pudding. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to ask any questions if I wasn't clear enough in my instructions. Other than that, I will see you next week. I think I've got a courgette and feta and courgette fritters for you. So stay tuned.